Wonderful people. Let's continue. We've been talking about the introduction of the provider of the constitution to the people of the Jews. We want to continue by looking at that statement that God made. I am thy God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, the land of bondage or the house of bondage. Let's look at the weight of that statement, because that statement carries weight. We will understand this better when we look at the book of Exodus, chapter number 19, and verse number 4. Exodus 19 and verse number 4. Let me read. He says, Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. In my last video, I told us that the Israelites have found themselves, or the Jewish nation has found themselves as slaves in Egypt. Remember, don't forget, that Egypt remains one of the prominent countries in the world where great and wonderful people have been groomed. I equally made mention of that Jesus Christ equally went to Egypt, and that was where he was groomed. That tells you that Africa remains the bona fide, wonderful nation that God has chosen, a wonderful continent that God has chosen. Okay, let's look at that statement deeply. When they found themselves as slaves in Egypt, they need freedom. But for a slave to clamor for freedom and get it, the process will be too terrible. It's very difficult for a slave to become free, especially when the slave is agitating to be free by himself. It will take the consent or the initiative of the slave master to talk about the freedom of a slave, and the slave will become free indeed. But if the slave is the one clamoring and agitating for freedom, when the slave master has not authenticated it, it will be very difficult. So at this juncture, as I read in my last video in Exodus chapter 2, verse number 23 and 24, the Israelites were crying and agitating for freedom, but their slave masters were not interested in that. Today in Africa, there is this clamor for freedom. Freedom from oftentimes the tyranny that is coming from the leaders in African nations. Tyranny from the colonial influence and all that. I want us to know that it will take God of heaven to come to our rescue when we feel that way. That was the picture God painted to them in Exodus chapter number 19, verse number 4, where he talked about eagle, that he came to the land of Egypt, dealt with them, and they just carried them on the eagle's wing. Let us look at eagle, the way eagle operates. Let's say, for instance, an animal fall into a pit, and that pit is too deep. No other animal can enter into that pit. Let's say that pit is up to maybe 100 meters deep or 200 meters deep, and a little animal falls into it. No other animal can come inside that pit to bring out that animal except a bird by name eagle. Eagle has this speed that he uses to descend from the upper side of the sky. While descending with that speed, it will maintain that very speed to the pit, to the bottom of the pit, and pick what is inside the pit and come out unhindered. It is ego that has that capacity. No matter where something falls in, if ego detects it and comes with a very powerful speed, nothing will hold that ego until ego captures it and fly with the same speed up. That is to say, the Israelites have cried. Egypt happened to be the world power, the superpower. Who will deliver them? Who can come to their rescue? No other person. In Africa, for instance, if your right is being trampled upon, you can call on America to come to your rescue. But imagine a situation where America is the one trampling upon you. Who will you call upon? Because today, America is the superpower. Who will you call upon? It's just like what happened recently in Iran. When America arrived, Iran understood of a truth that the superpowers have arrived. And as such, there is no way they can retaliate. That was similar to the situation that the Jewish nation found themselves. Nowhere to complain, no superpower to come and deal with Egypt. They were helpless. It was in that very state that God, who made them, that one who said, I am thy God, now came, dealt with Egyptians in a very unique and wonderful way by releasing 10 plagues upon the land and equally striking all the firstborn in the land of Egypt in a particular moment. The entire nation was mourning, and the Israelites left that land. The Jewish nation left that land. When God wanted to give them rules that will guide them, God knew that that rules will be difficult for them to keep, because man is not inclined to obeying laws. Disobedience is running in the vein of every man. Guess what happened? I will tell you in the next video. Call me Pastor Elisha, the reformer with a difference and a rising voice in Africa.